We'll start off with an ambitious title, and we'll be talking a bit about branding. So first of all, we'll go through a bit about the topic in general, what you need to consider when doing these kind of implementations in your application, like customization, theming. Then we'll take a quick dive with the implementation at Brella, and lastly, we'll look what the future holds. So branding isn't a simple thing. It's not just like allowing people to change colors in your product or allowing them to upload profile images or background images. It's more than that. It's pretty much comes down to little details and ideas you need to consider, such as how much do you want to allow customization on a platform? How does the colors work on light backgrounds, dark backgrounds? What will the designer, the developer workflow will look like? What's the shared language or naming conventions you want to use? So it's all kinds of those things. And as a SaaS company, there's really one thing that you need to solve when it comes to branding. And it's not an easy task. So you have to think about two things. So how do you allow your customers, in our context, it will be events and event organizers, how do you allow those to express their brand and allow them to serve their customers so that their customers know that they are kind of like in a known environment? And the second thing, how do we keep our own brand and product intact? And we could allow people to upload background images, but that instantly ruins our brand and product. So as you can see in this picture, even though the background is pretty, it messes up the contrast ratios on the text, so it gets messy pretty quickly. And of course, the users don't follow guidelines, so they will upload small images, it will get pixelated, all your designers will, just cry their eyes out because it just breaks your platform. So we don't allow people to change their backgrounds at Brella. And this is something you should also consider, that do you really need to do this on your platform? Because, for example, Twitter doesn't allow that anymore, and it's probably for a reason. One big thing regarding the branding is the actual design and developer workflow and how you're going to manage that. And the biggest thing is the communication. So you need to have a shared language and agree on the naming conventions before you can actually, start doing stuff. Because once the developer starts working on the code, it's hard to jump in as a designer to say okay, that color should be named that if the developer have already made the choices. So communication is one of the biggest things that you need to agree on. And then one thing you also need to consider is how does that logic from the code translate to the designs and vice versa. So if this developer generates a color palette in the code, how does that transfer to the design so the designer can use those kind of colors and adjustments in the designs? And again, if the designer does something in the Figma or some other design tool, how does those colors and adjustments transfer to the code? So it's a lot of things that you need to consider. And of course, every color needs to be tested in the design before you can say that, okay, these are the colors we want to use and the algorithm we want to use for the color generation. And you're going to need designer eye on everything. I'm not sure about this slide if you can spot the differences, but as I mentioned about the designer eye, there are some things that developers might miss and might not know about, and it comes down to color theory. So it would make sense that you use black text on lighter background and white text on darker backgrounds. But actually, there's something you can do to adjust to make the UI look more connected. So on the left side, I have the black text on a yellow button, and then on the right, I actually have dark yellow text on the button. So when you look at these, your designers will be happy because everything seems more connected. So those are kind of little things that you need to consider when doing these branding capabilities in your product. And of course, talking about colors, they have meanings. So this is like a simple practical use case that you have save and delete button, and they are, using the regular common stand colors that have meaning. So green for success or good, yellow for caution, and red for danger. And imagine if on Brella, we decided that, okay, all the buttons should use the event primary colors. So, and the event brand colors. So what if an event has a black as the primary color? And you can probably already guess that it's going to go wrong quite quickly, especially if you don't have like any wrappers or safety measures on the delete functionality. So you need to know when to keep things untouched. And with all these kind of ideas and things to consider, we built our own solution at Brella using these kind of main tools. So first of all, our component library is built on AntDesign. So we use the AntDesign own color palette generator as a base. Then to improve the UX a bit on the customization tab for the event organizers, I ran into this like super cool library called Leonardo from Adobe that kind of does the accessibility contrast radio checks for us. So we can kind of suggest new colors that they could use in the UI. And then lastly, less and tiny color, less because AntDesign uses less, so we need to use less on our end to override variables that can be changed through on runtime, and tiny color because we need to adjust few colors that don't exist in the actual color palette that is generated by the AntDesign generator. So I'm going to show a little demo how things work at Brella. So here is the view that the event organizers see, and we have a nice preview of our event homepage, some dummy components that match these colors selected here. We have our own Brella default theme, and then you can do a custom theme. So here we have a color picker, and I can start changing colors, and the preview changes in real time. And here you can see like these kind of like color suggestions as we go. So I'm just going to leave it there. I think this is good. Could be some design might say it should be something else. So I'm just going to go and change the secondary color to something else, to maybe some blue. So okay, now this seems to be perfect for me. I'm going to save these changes and go to see the actual event that I'm changing. So this is the default theme that I used before. But if I now refresh the page, you can see everything changed. So it's pretty simple implementation, but does actually bring a lot of value for our customers. So on the code side, we actually have a couple of things that we did in our implementation. So for first of all, we are using like Create React app as a base. So we need to customize the plugins in order to actually override those last variables. So AntDesign luckily provides this Webpack plugin to actually select few variables we want to override, and then we're going to add the less loader inside our Webpack configuration. So we are actually able to do those overrides. Then we have like this our own less file where we set out the default variables, pretty simple stuff. We saturate some stuff, and this will translate later with the tiny color. So there's some like couple things that we need to adjust because we just couldn't use the same colors or the like direct colors from the palette because it looked ugly. And the main magic happens here with our generate colors function. So it just takes in an object with the primary and secondary colors, and if they don't exist, we use our own default colors, and then we create named palettes for each of those colors. And again, once I mentioned earlier, we can't use all the colors directly. We need to have some extra colors. So here we are just like generating or lightening some of the few colors that we can use in different places in our application. So I can show a bit more about the code here. So super simple stuff that we name the palette. This is, super simple stuff. And here we actually generate the color palette, and this generate function comes from the undesign colors library. So here we generate the undesign color palette and then just name the colors as we want. And here we, pair them to the less variables where we can just like use them in the application with the less values. Then we have this color in grayscale function that we check for each of the colors in multiple places, because if the color happens to be in the grayscale area and we would leave it like that, it would look terrible in our application when we test it around. So we just want to kind of add some like default colors like over here instead if it's in the grayscale. So simple stuff, but does, the little details is what it's all about. And you can see here that tiny color is used to, lighten the color same way as in the less thing. So saturate and fade pretty much like applies here. Then this all is connected to our Redux. So in our initialization, we just generate our Brella colors, and that's pretty much it. And every time our component event container loads, we set the event theme with the event colors. And it's a super simple solution for us. And then it's not enough to only override the less variables, because we are also using emotion in our application. So, and emotion of course needs its own theme object. So this is why we are storing data in the Redux, that we can pass it to the theme provider in order to do emotion theming with the color palette we just generated. So these are pretty simple steps what we took here at Brella. And we do want to improve on it because it has a lot of things that could be better. For example, do we really want to use tiny color to do some little adjustments? We had some like problems with the naming conventions. Probably our designers have different names for the notification background items and whatever than the developers do. And as the title suggested, that we are on the road to the world's best branding. And that's what we want to do. And we want to like nail this perfectly. And we think that others should also enjoy the fruits of our labor. So we are planning to, and currently working on our design system, which will be public. So you can go click around and see how we do things. Not sure if it's going to be a component library so that you could use Brella kind of components in your application, but we'll see. However, we will do an npm package with the whole color generation palette logic, so that you can do and nail branding on your own application. So ideally, it would just take foreground and background colors, and boom, you have the perfect color palette for yourself to use. Maybe later we'll also include this logic in a Figma plugin, so all your designers can enjoy this amazing generator also. But this is just a promise for the future, no dates yet, so just stay tuned. And pretty much for the end, the obligatory recruiting slide. So if you're interested in working in branding or doing cool stuff with us, we have a lot of interesting features and projects coming up. So drop me a message at my email, check out Carrie's page, and thank you for tuning in. Hopefully next time when you wonder where is the dark mode, you know a few reasons why.
Thank you so much. That was really nice. That was really good. And I am really excited to have color palettes generated for me, because I suck at it. Like really, really bad. And I think that is a general problem that Tailwind came and tried to help us with. Yeah, but yeah, I'm very excited for this. I'm just gonna. Okay, somebody is asking about success and danger colors. Do you mind? Yeah, thank you.
Currently, we are kind of like pretty lucky that most of our like delete buttons and like colors we don't have in the attendee side. We do have some like errors that we display on the attendee side, but on the admin panel, there's no branding happening or theming happening. So we are kind of like pretty safe with the success and danger colors. So it's all handled in the mostly in the admin panel that we are able to use those colors in the application.
Okay, cool. Let me just 1 second. Something weird happened to my computer. I would like
actually,
to. Yeah.
Also to add to that even though like our brand colors are green and yellow, green and purple, we use icons to like emphasize the thing. It's like if it's a success, we show a check mark that okay, this is a success, and those kind of things to add with the colors.
Yeah, that makes sense. Also because colors also don't have the same meaning all over the world. Something that I've
Yes.
learned. So like actually something can mean a completely different thing in another part of the world. So it's always important to use iconography and text or text to make sure that people can see what it is. I think you should always also use text and iconography. Yeah. Does anyone else have any other questions? There is. Okay. Yeah. Do you want to come here? You're talking about color blindness right here. Do you want to?
Yeah, sure.
Do you want?
So, yeah, how do you deal? I mean, quite a few people they have some issue that they cannot see certain colors, or like, how do you make sure that you don't get issues with color blindness? Like,
Yes, that's a good question. It just requires a lot of design work and like working together with the developer to actually like go through the colors, how it looks in the application, test it out with people who has color blindness. So it's currently like again like if you have a product that allows you full customization of the colors, it's pretty impossible to do like satisfy like every color blindness if the like user just picks some random colors that the color blind can't not see. So one way to actually tackle this would be provide some few different palettes of colors or the color palettes that the user can pick, which has been tested out properly with the accessibility in mind. So like it's hard to do and satisfy all the accessibility needs when you are allowing users to customize all the colors like freely.
So I guess I mean another related issue is that I mean some people they don't see so well that or they cannot read small text. Do you have some measures in place to make sure that your like the contrast or font size is at adequate level for people that have issues with this font size for instance?
Currently at Brella, it's pretty much like an ongoing process that we want to like improve the accessibility. But for example, the Leonardo library is pretty good that you can determine like the font size on the background of the element, and you can put the contrast radio that it should satisfy, and it suggests you colors that okay, use these ones. So there are tools to do that, but it just like requires a lot of work to actually make it happen. Currently, like some of our text are a bit small on our application, but designers are working on it to make it like more accessible and readable for everyone.